Now to those infrastructure talks. Let's bring in Republican Congresswoman McClain of Michigan. She's a member of the House Education and Labor Committee and the House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman, you've heard the arguing in Washington. People like Bernie Sanders say a $1 trillion deal, as proposed by Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, that's not big enough. He wants to go 4 times that size or more. What's your take?
Are we really surprised? I mean, this is just another example of the progressive wish. Listen, we need an infrastructure bill. Our roads and bridges are in dire need of repair, no question. In this, I was hopeful that we actually could get some bipartisan efforts working together, and it appears that we are. But it's just not good enough for people like Bernie Sanders. My message to the progressives is let's deal with infrastructure, roads, bridges, waterways. Let's even throw broadband in there. If you want to deal with college, Medicare, and a pathway to citizenship, we can talk about that, but that's not infrastructure. And I would think that with all of their years of experience in politics, they would understand the difference between infrastructure and non-infrastructure. So let's get back to the basics of infrastructure and let's work together in a bipartisan manner to actually get something done.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham, obviously a Republican senator from South Carolina, has some Democratic support for the bill that he's put forward. It's a small one. It's only $1 trillion. Here's Senator Graham on that.
I think the difference between this negotiation and the earlier negotiation is that we're willing to add more new money to infrastructure in this package, and I am hopeful if the White House and Joe Biden stay involved, we can get there. I would just say this, President Biden, if you want an infrastructure deal of $1 trillion, it's there for the taking. You just need to get involved and lead.
And so he seems to be saying that it could go bigger than $1 trillion, and there would be people on both sides of the aisle who would welcome that, or who at least would negotiate on that. But he doesn't want to start talking about $2 trillion, $4 trillion, $6 trillion, like some progressives are asking for on the Democrat side.
Well, at the end of the day, who's going to pay for it? It's going to be on the backs of our children and our grandchildren. And again, this is nothing more than a progressive wish list. Think of how far we've come when we're talking about $1 trillion and that being a small amount.
Yeah, it is a little eye-opening, let's put it that way. Bernie Sanders says it's not enough. Here's what he had to say this morning.
The amount of money that they are proposing is about 1/4 of what the president talked about in terms of new money. That's not adequate. And what we should be also watching carefully is how it is paid for. Their bipartisan proposal, like ours, is still in flux. They're talking, some people at least are talking about raising the gas tax or a fee on electric cars, or maybe privatization of infrastructure. Those, to my mind, are bad ideas.
So he doesn't like the idea, for instance, raising the gas tax to pay for some infrastructure. But if you're not going to do that, how are you going to pay for it?
There's no answers on how you're going to pay for it. Even if you use big business to pay for it, and even if big business paid 100% of their income and their profits, 100% to taxes, it still would not cover the infrastructure bill. Now, I can understand, and I say this sincerely, why Bernie Sanders would want that. He hasn't spent a day in the private sector trying to run a business, and he hasn't had to sign the front of any checks. All he's had to do is sign the back of checks. And therein lies the problem.
Congresswoman McClain, stand by. I want to bring you back in a little bit to get your reaction as we turn to the crisis at the southern border. Stick with us. The situation there is growing more dire and dangerous as we head into summer. Migrants are now turning to trains as a way to get into the country illegally. This photo shows several people packed into the crawl space of one boxcar. Officials are trying to warn migrants traveling this way could lead to serious injuries or worse. Bill Malusian is live at the border in La Jolla, Texas, now with more. Bill.
John, good evening to you. This surge showing no signs of slowing down. Migrants continue to cross here by the hundreds. Every single day you're taking a live look at our Fox drone, which is just down the road from where we are right now, with more migrants being apprehended as we speak. And we're starting to learn more about how desperate some of these migrants are to stay in the United States and how ruthless some of these human smugglers are when they take advantage of these migrants. Take a look at these new photos we just got this week. This is out of Uvalde, Texas on Tuesday. DPS and Border Patrol rescuing 15 migrants who had literally been locked inside of a moving train by human smugglers. They were all being kept inside of grain hoppers, and we're told it was 110 degrees inside. By the time Border Patrol and DPS got on scene, 5 of those migrants were already suffering from heat stroke and had to be hospitalized. Thankfully, they were able to get there in time to save everybody's lives. But this is it's becoming more of a common theme. Take a look at these photos right here, also out of Uvalde, Texas. This is when Border Patrol rescued a group of 52 migrants who had also been hiding inside of a train, including children. They were being kept in tight compartments, crammed into tiny spaces inside of this horrible Texas heat. And more on that as you look at video out of Texas's Big Bend sector. What experts are telling us is migrants are really starting to try to use trains more often. Once they already get into the United States, they will hop on trains, hide in them in tight spaces, hoping they can get deeper into the interior of the United States. Obviously, that is incredibly dangerous as we go into these summer months. It gets extremely hot. People can die of heat stroke very quickly. And you listen to Border Patrol, they say these human smugglers, they don't care what happens to them. They just care they get paid. Take a listen.
I think that, yeah, they're ruthless. To them, it's about the money. It's a commodity, and people continue to trust in them. You know, they're going to exploit those human beings.
And again, we're here in the Rio Grande Valley sector, which is the busiest sector in the entire country. And just to highlight how overwhelmed and overstretched Border Patrol is down here, just about an hour ago, we had a group of about 6 Mexican nationals and 2 Guatemalans just come up behind us and start talking to us. They were looking for Border Patrol. Border Patrol was not here. They spoke with us for about 20 minutes. The group of Mexicans said they were trying to get to Tennessee. They called their family in Tennessee, and they were asking us, where's La Migra? Where's Border Patrol? And we're kind of looking around saying, you know, we don't know. And it's not Border Patrol's fault. They're completely overrun in this sector, but it just goes to show this surge is not slowing down anytime soon, and Border Patrol needs more boots on the ground. We'll send it back to you.
So these were people who wanted to turn themselves into Border Patrol, or they were just wondering where the heat was?
Yes, they wanted to turn themselves in. These were not runners. It was a group of about 6. They were all teenagers, about the oldest being maybe 17. They had a couple of kids with them. Then there were 2 young Guatemalan girls who were very quiet, just standing off on the road, also looking for Border Patrol. They were all asking, where's Border Patrol? They even asked us, can you please call them? Eventually, Border Patrol did arrive and apprehended them, but it took about 20 minutes or so.
Bill Malusian, live in La Jolla, Texas. Bill, thank you. Let's bring back Michigan Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Heartbreaking stories there from the border. And I want to put up on screen the numbers that we are seeing. In May of 2019, there were 144,000 plus apprehensions at the border. May of 2020, 23,000 and change. In May of 2021, we're up to 180,000 border encounters. Congresswoman, how do you see it? What's going on?
It's a simple cause and effect. When you open the border, people come through, and they come through illegally. And the issue is, if you look at the people that are coming over, they are getting smuggled over by the cartel. And the only people who are gaining in this equation are the cartels and the drug dealers. Because what they're doing is they are bringing over illegal and unaccompanied minors and children. And then, sadly enough, they are recycling those children to go back and come over with another family. This is an example, in my opinion, of modern day slavery. And I will share with you, I am disgusted and appalled at our vice president, as well as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. If you don't think this is a crisis at the border, what in God's name is a crisis at the border?
Well, Kamala Harris went down to the Northern Triangle countries and said the border is closed. Do not come.
right? How's that working for her? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
There is not only...
The cartels are commodity neutral. They don't care whether they smuggle guns, drugs, or people. And we are going to have we do have a serious issue in this country because the illegal underage migrants are coming into my state in Michigan. And the other thing that's coming to a town near you is all of the drugs. Because while all of the people are getting smuggled in illegally, and the Border Patrol, you saw it earlier in your broadcast, they don't have Border Patrol to deal with the people that are crossing illegally. Yeah. What do you think is happening with the opioids and the heroin and the fentanyl that's coming over? You think there's any correlation to that being up 300%? It's cause and effect. It's not that tough.
We have some numbers from seizures from Customs and Border Protection in fiscal year 2021. About 65,000 pounds of cocaine and 58,000 pounds in fiscal year 2020. So the numbers are up. Fentanyl, 7,540 pounds in fiscal year 2021, which is not even over yet, versus 4,776 fiscal year 2020. The numbers are going up, and as deadly as fentanyl is, I mean, an extra 1,000 pounds could mean tens of thousands of deaths in this country.
And again, I was in a hearing this week with Secretary of Health and Human Services, and not many people know this, but he diverted $2 billion for the non-crisis at the border. He diverted those funds from COVID relief funds and our stockpile funds. And again, all I ask is, if that's not a crisis, what is?
Congresswoman Lisa McClain, Republican of Michigan. Thank you. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you. I would like to get one other thing. If I could wish my father-in-law, Bob, a happy Father's Day. He's the best.
I'm sure he's watching, and I'm sure he appreciates the greeting. Congresswoman, thank you.